Uh-huh. Big John. Big John. Okay. Oh, goodness. I don't know why I drink coffee. It puts me to sleep. Those people wakes them up. All right. Book of John, chapter 8, verse. Oh, never mind. Yeah. See, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts, where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery, and the laws of Moses commanded us to stone such a woman. Now, what do you say?" They were using the question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. But Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. When they kept questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, "If any one of you who is without sin, let him be the first to throw a stone at her." Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until Jesus was left. With the woman still standing there, Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you." Jesus declared, "Go now and leave your life of sin." Okay, this is probably one of the most popular events in the Bible where, everybody, "He who without sin cast the first stone." Of course, they changed the language up in this version of the Bible. Now, the thing is the Pharisees, because Jesus was teaching a more peaceful type, love your brother, love your sister, go to the Father for forgiveness. And these people were still going by the Mosaic law, which is by stoning people to death. And these are the ones that were the same ones that killed Jesus, because they're trying to catch him and they're trying to be a trap all the time. All the time they try to trap him. But the thing about Jesus is God. And Jesus and God are a lot smarter than any human being. No matter what degree we put behind our name or in front of our name, God is still going to be smarter than us. Because God created us. We can't create nothing. We're good. We can't create muffins without having to go to the store and get flour and everything else. But God can create something out of nothing. Now, when they come to him, like I said, they're trying to catch him. And because the thing about it is why do they just bring the woman? When you commit adultery, does that take two to tango? And yet they just bring the woman. They didn't bring the man, they just brought the woman. And that was probably, back then, like I say, women were less than some of the household not pets, but the household, like goats and stuff like that. Women had less value back then. But the thing I want to think of is when it says Jesus was stooped down and he was writing. And then they asked him again, he stood up and said that, and he said back down and started writing again. What do you think he was writing? See, that's what I was thinking. I thought he was writing the 10 Commandments down. He was writing the 10 Commandments down, and he's thinking, and then he tells the people, he said, okay, he who without sin cast the first stone. Now, why did the older ones go away first? They probably had more sin.
They lived a long time, so they could sin more.
Sin more, yes. And see, that's the thing about it is, and see, that's society nowadays. That's what we do, is we want to check. We want to cast judgment on people so easier than we look at ourselves. You know, we want to look at other people's lives and not our own lives. We want to say, well, you know, I might lie and cheat, but that guy's in jail for murder, you know, or that guy, you know, whatever it is. And that's the thing about it. But what we need to do is we need to take and examine ourselves better, because what did Jesus say? You know, Jesus said, go and sin no more. He didn't say just keep doing what you're doing. And see, this is one I tell you that China, when they're rewriting the Bible over in China, I told y'all this some time ago, where they're rewriting the Bible and they're changing the stories so that way eventually they're going to get believed. And it's kind of hard. It's idiotical that people would get up there and actually think that, oh, I'm going to rewrite the Bible and somebody's going to believe it. But you think about it, Joseph Smith did that. Joseph Smith rewrote the Bible, and now it's a religion backed by millions of people. He rewrote the Bible because he said an angel come to him and said the Bible was not correct. It was corrupt. It was corrupt. And yet, he put his own ideas and everything else into this new religion. And granted, he did have 35 wives. You know, I think he rewrote it for his own. But the thing about it, with this sermon right here is with this woman was terrified, petrified, she's fixed to get killed. Because they did this. They would actually stone you to death. I didn't bring my keys. I usually keep a stone in here so I can give you an idea of the kind of rock they hit. Because they didn't hit you with little pebbles. They hit you with rocks, stones. A rock is a lot smaller. A stone is something bigger. And that's what they used to hit people with and kill them. Now, Jesus here, he's sitting there, and like I say, he's using his intelligence over anything. And when you use your intelligence, because we as humans, we race to conclusions so quickly. We don't stop and think, okay, of the whole scenario. Most of the time, we hear something, we react on how it makes us feel. Y'all notice that? If you hear somebody that beat up their wife, you know, and it's going to be like, oh man, you know, I'm mad now, you know. But if you hear a child beat up their mother, it's like, oh man, what's wrong with that child? What did they do to this child? You know, there's always a different side the way we look at stuff. But Jesus, he keeps stuff plain and simple down the middle, because like I say, every road that you go down has 2 miles of ditches to fall off into. And that's generally where we fall off in the ditch, because we don't look at what's the whole scenario, the story is. Because like I say, when you have a tree that produces good fruit and a bad tree that produces bad fruit, well, right now the Pharisees are the ones producing bad fruit, because they're trying to get Jesus to stone this woman to death. And back what I was saying about before I get sidetracked, I probably didn't tell you, Chris, but China's rewriting the Bible, and what they're doing in this story right here is they're saying that after, when Jesus said, he without sin cast the first stone, and they all leave, then it says Jesus picked up the stone and stoned her to death because he was without sin. That's what they're putting in the Chinese Bible, the new one they're writing, that's going to be a new religion in about 25 years from now. People's going to pick it up and say, oh man, this must be real because somebody wrote it. And that just shows how dumb people are. But then, let's go down here and to the next verse. It says, to validate Jesus' testimony. When Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. The Pharisees challenged him, here you are appearing as your own witness. Your own testimony is not valid. Jesus answered, even if I testify on my behalf, my testimony is valid, for I know where I come from, and where I'm going. But you have no idea where I come from or where I'm going. You judge me by human standards. I pass judgment on no one. But if I do judge, my decisions are right because I'm not alone. I stand with my Father who sent me. In your own law, it is written that the testimony of two men is valid. I am only one who testifies for myself. My other witness is my Father who sent me. Then they asked him, where is your Father? You do not know me or my Father, Jesus replied. If you knew me, you would know my Father also. He spoke these words while teachers in the temple area near the palace, or place where the offerings were put, yet no one seized him. But his time had not yet come. Once more Jesus said to them, I am going away, and you will look for me, and you will die in your sins. Where I go, you cannot go. This made the Jews ask, will he kill himself? Is that why he says, where I go, you cannot come? But he continued, you are from below, I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. I told you that you would die in your sins if you did not believe that I am the one I claim to be. You will indeed die in your sins. Who are you, they asked. Just as I have been claiming all along, Jesus replied, I have much to say in judgment of you, but he also sent me, is reliable, and at what I have heard from him, I tell the world. Then they did not understand what he was telling them about his Father. So Jesus said, when you are lifted up, the Son of Man, then you will know that I am the one who claimed to be, and that I do nothing on my own, but speak just what the Father has taught me. The one who sent me is with me. He has not left me alone, for always do what pleases him. Even if he speaks, many people put their faith in him. Now, see, that's the thing I love about Jesus, because Jesus never includes himself without the Father. Because that's the thing about Jesus, is he relies on the Father. How many of Jesus' prayers did not get answered? Y'all know this? How many of his prayers did not get answered? None. Every one of them got answered. Why? Because he said, I trusted in the Father. He trusted in the Father. See, that's what a lot of our problems are in this lifetime. We're like this adulterous woman that we don't know very much, so we don't claim very much. But Jesus, everything he says with authority. And that's what he talks about us. We need to have more authority in what we say and how we do it. God blesses us with his word, with the Holy Spirit inside of us, where we can heal and all these other amazing things if we trusted in God enough. You know, I'm still learning here. You know, I better fix to be preaching 5 years next month. And thing is I don't think I can heal somebody. I would love to have that confidence. You know, that would be. But then I would be scared that if I did heal somebody, I'd get a big hit and start thinking I could do this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want. That's the reason I'm like God, because God's not going to do something to you that you're not ready for. But the thing is we need to speak, and everything that we say and do in his authority. When we tell somebody, God said, but we don't say that anymore. What we do say is, well, that's not nice. You notice that? When we're telling somebody we catch them lying or gossiping or whatever, we say, that's not nice. You know, you call it what it is. And that's the thing, what I said about society nowadays is where we've taken and changed things around. Like this guy right here, he said, when they said, we got this woman that's committed adultery. What's adultery called today? Sleeping around? You know, we give it a happy name. It's like with somebody that is a child molester. You don't call them a child molester anymore, you call them a pedophile. You know, or some proper, they got a more proper name now, I can't remember what it was. But then you take somebody that's a straight up thief, you know, and you don't call them a thief, you call them a kleptomaniac. You know, it's like, no, they're a thief, man. They're not a kleptomaniac. But the thing is, the reason a thief steals is not because he's a thief. It's because he's a sinner and he's committing sin. And that's what we do. And that's what these women, and that's what Jesus is trying to tell them, is when I speak, I want to speak with authority. I want to speak authority with my Father, and I want to tell you when something's going wrong in your life, it's probably because you're walking the wrong side of God. Because generally, when something starts happening in your life, God's working with you. But sometimes He sends people to work against you to get you closer to Him. Because if God never challenged us, if we have an unchallenged faith, that's not a trusting faith. Because if your faith has never been trusted, what kind of challenges can you brag about? What kind of say, well, what kind of storms have you been in? Because if you've been in storms, you know you're going to have scars, you're going to have battle wounds, and you're going to have what? Memories of how it feels to hurt. How it feels to have your life ripped away from you, have something that's very close to you pulled away from you, because that is what wounds do to you. And if you never went through a trial, then you would not have no faith in God. When you have gone through trials of faith in God, like this woman challenging the faith of being stoned to death, we've never faced that. How many people here have been challenged with getting stoned to death? None of us. We can't say this. You know, how many of us have had somebody put a gun in our face and tell us we're going to kill us? There might be a few. But the thing is, though, is not all of us face this. But God has put some people in our lives like that to challenge us. So that way, when we face these storms, we can go through them and we can have the authority of God behind us. When we say, my faith is not going to be rattled. I don't care what you say to me. Because the thing about it is I told y'all, growing up, I had a very verbally abusive stepdad. Very verbally and very physically abusive to me. He would sit there and degrade me, and degrade me, and degrade me, and degrade me all the time. To the point now, when somebody says something negative to me, it doesn't bother me. You know why? Because I know what my Father thinks about me. And that's all I care about. Because I know if I get mad and I say something to them, what am I showing? I'm showing them that they're winning. I'm showing them that they can take away the confidence I have in my God to take away from that just to give to them. Look, I won. I got him mad. I got him mad. I got him rattled. So how much trust does he have in his God? But if I sit there and steadfast and don't get angry, what am I doing? I'm showing the exact same thing that what Jesus did when he went to the cross. When Jesus went to the cross, what did he say to Pilate? He didn't say nothing to his defense. What did he say to him when they were mocking him? He said nothing. What did he say when he was on the cross and they were mocking him then? He said, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He asked for forgiveness for them. Because why? Because he had the Father's authority behind him. And that's what I say. When somebody tries coming at me like that, I try to say, you know what? You're not taking away my authority of God that God's given me to say that I am a steadfast person, that you're not going to rock. You're not going to push me. You're not going to sway me. I'm not this loose boat inside of a raging river that's just going to be moved around. I'm that stone in the middle of that river that's not going to be moved. How many stones do y'all see get moved when waves are hitting against them? Very few. Why? Because they're stone. They have a base. They have, what is it? What did Jesus tell Peter? I forgot. This is a different testimony, a different story. I think in there sick. But that's the thing. That's what this woman, if she would have had the faith of God in her situation, even though she was in trouble. Because that's the thing, is we're all going to fall short of the grace of God. We're all going to fall short of the grace of God. Because why? Because we're human. We make mistakes. But it's how we cling to God in the time of things. Even though sometimes we don't do things, but the thing is, though, is we just need to stay steadfast in God and be that stone. Because Jesus, when you have authority, you speak with authority, you're saying, my God backs what I say. Don't manipulate it and say, well, God said, no. No. But when you say God said, when God said, if you read the Bible, God says a lot of things, and a lot of things are talking against evil and talking about the principalities of this earth. That things that, like I say, that we're going to be faced with. So I was talking to this woman earlier today, and talking about some people say, well, I don't really believe in God. I'm like, well, do you believe in the devil? They're like, no, I really don't believe in the devil either. And I tell them, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror for about 10 minutes and tell me that there is not somebody talking bad about you. You start looking in that mirror and it's going to tear you apart. How many times you ever look in the mirror and say, man, looking good? No, we don't, do we? We look in the mirror and say, oh man, I need to lose another 15 pounds. Man, I'm getting old. Oh, look at all this gray hair. Is that a bald? Is that a thinning spot? I mean, we do this. We look in the mirror, and that's what we judge. We tear ourselves apart. And why? Because the devil does not want us to like ourselves. He does not want us to like ourselves. He tries to tear us away from God. Because the devil would rather you sit in these pews and go to hell than him have you in the slums. Okay? Because this way right here, he's like, God, you know what? They think they're so close to you, but they're not. Because they're believing my lie. They're believing my lie that they are not worthy to be loved. Some of us say, oh man, I want to be loved by God. I want to be loved by God. But yet the devil's there saying, you're not worthy. You're not worthy. You're not worthy. And and I tell people, he's not this guy running around just trying to jump out and scare you a boo or whatever. This is a guy that his only mission in this world is to take God's children away from him. Because he knows Revelation. He knows Revelation just like we know it. He knows what's going to happen. He knows he's a lost foe. He knows that his head's going to be crushed at Calvary. Okay? But what he can't, and what he does know though is the only way he can hurt God is by taking away more and more of his children. And that's because a lot of us don't speak with the authority of God behind our words. We don't use his authority. We just try to be nice, because we try to do the 11th commandment, and that's thou shalt be nice. And that's not a commandment, just by the way. That is God's way of saying we have to represent and tell people the truth. And the truth will what? Set you free. But we have to tell it. Not sugarcoat it, just be honest with it. And like I say, I read on because of Jesus, where Jesus talks about with the authority of the Father. Because like I say, that's what he spoke with these people. And when you when you tell people, because like I say, it's easy for people to start pointing fingers. But when you start pointing fingers back, you realize that I'm not perfect by no means. I make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. And I've made mistakes my entire life, And I think when I'm in my 80s, I'll probably still be making mistakes if I'm still here, Because that's the thing about it is I still think I'm smart and can still think of things. But anyway, if you would bow your heads. Dear Father,